It is officially trade deadline day, and a lot of moves are happening around the NHL, and the Leafs are linked to more players, as well as they have made a sneaky trade last night, and this guy could have a very big impact going forward in the future. So I'm going to break all that down in this episode of Leafs Digest. But before we do, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We have been pumping out 1 to 2 videos a day for you guys. If you hit that button for us, it would mean the world. We're on the road to 7,000, and thank you for your continued support as we pump out these videos, because Darius, there's so much going on right now, especially around the NHL. The Jets just got Tyler Toffoli. The Bruins got Pat Maroon. There's just a lot of things going on right now. But let's start with the Leafs yesterday, and they made a sneaky trade. We didn't get a video out about it yesterday. We wanted to let it marinate just a little bit, and it's an interesting one. It's probably going to pay more dividends going forward. It is a younger guy, but he is huge. The Leafs acquired unsigned draft pick Cade Weber from the Canes for a 6th round pick. And if you're unfamiliar with him, he's done some crazy things. You can see here he set a new record with 114 blocks in a season, the most since they started tracking back in 2012. He's 6'7", 216 pounds, a near zero offensive profile, which is kind of similar to what the Leafs have been going for all trade deadline, funny enough. But Darius, he is he's great defensively. He's huge. I don't know if he's going to make an impact anytime soon at the NHL level, but it was a trade they made, and I think it could be sneaky good going forward.
Yeah, definitely a futures move. That's for sure. I don't think this guy, he's not even signed. They have to sign him. They basically acquired his signing rights, I guess. They have to sign him to an entry level, get him in there, but a pretty decent prospect. And my first thought when they acquired him is I went to like check out his stats and I was like, 6 assists, that's it. And then I realized, yeah, he's a defenseman. I didn't look at that part. I was too excited. I just saw Leafs trade and I freaked out just like everyone else. So no, definitely a futures move. And this is a good move going forward. Like you said, big boy, 208 pounds, 6'7" defenseman, left shot defenseman. So not exactly, what they're looking for right now. But down the road, these guys are getting older who are on the team now. So if you're looking like 5 years from now or something, I think this could turn into a pretty decent pickup for the Leafs, who could slot into the lineup somewhere down the road. So could be a nice sneaky little pickup, but nothing to it right now. I'd say he's definitely not going to get into the lineup like this year. He probably won't be with the Marlies, anything like that. But nice little sneaky pickup for future player here.
Yeah, and for a 6th round pick, which, I mean, who knows what that could have got you at this deadline? Probably nothing better than the potential of Cade Weber. We really don't know with everything that's going down there. And let us know what your thoughts are. We're not going to harp on it too much, but it was good to see that they made, I guess, another move for a defenseman. I think they're kind of trying to just maybe play into the future regarding their defensive core, because their blue line has been a problem for a while now, and adding some more depth, you can never go wrong with that. Now, Darius, let's get into today. Let's get into what's happening today. There's a lot of things to discuss. Literally, 2 trades happened actually right before we started recording, but there's some pretty major trade updates, not just for the Leafs, but for the NHL in general, but which all, of course, impacts the Toronto Maple Leafs. And there's a couple things here. There were a bunch of reports coming out today that from a variety of reporters, the Leafs aren't done and that they're going to make another move. You can see this screenshot here from NHL Trade Rumors. The article is saying that Toronto's not done making moves, and that they're hearing, according to multiple reporters, it kind of congregated the reports saying that a trade is most likely going to come for the Toronto Maple Leafs and that they're not done, which is what we expected as well, given all the salary retention. The players left, we still don't really know. Colton Parayko, we've heard some things that maybe he's not available for trade. We've heard some other rumors saying that he is available for trade. We've heard some crazy Sidney Crosby trade rumors as well, which have been going down from incarcerated Bob there, which is a bit crazy. And the Leafs are on apparently one of his team's preferred destinations. But Darius, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of kind of misinformation potentially even going around. I have this screenshot from Hockey Insider. He's saying that he's being told the Maple Leafs and Coyotes are closing in on a deal for defenseman Matt Dumba. To make this clear, no idea if this guy is legit. I think he's had a few things right in baseball in the past, but I'm just throwing this out there just kind of as speculation. Do not take this.
Dumba's been out there, so
yeah, do not take this. Exactly. Do not take this or definitely take this with a grain of salt. I wouldn't say that deal is done. That being said, I would not be surprised if they do end up trading for Matt Dumba. What are your thoughts on the current situation, Darius? The Leafs are not done, according to multiple reports. But the question is who's left? Even if Colton Parayko isn't off the board, we just saw Tyler Toffoli go off the board. Pat Maroon, they got their thug there in the Bruins. They got their big guy, and I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of moving pieces here, especially like you mentioned, the Bruins getting Pat Maroon after what happened last night, and I'll get to that in a second. I mean, in terms of who's still on the board, Colton Parayko is still on the board. Matt Dumba is still there. There was a couple other right shot defensemen that we heard that were probably not as, enticing as the 2 guys I just mentioned. We heard, like you said yesterday, that Colton Parayko, has caught the eye of the Maple Leafs, but then on the other side of things, he has a no movement clause. He has not been asked to waive it, and the Blues would rather not move on from it, which I think is a little puzzling given where they are as a team. But so I'm not sure that's going to happen. But given the cap situation, the fact that they sent out Lagesson, like we covered yesterday, I don't think they are done. I think they can still add. And like we mentioned, after today, you can have more than like 23 people or whatever it is on your roster. You just have to figure out the salary cap until the playoffs. So I think that they're still in on somebody. It's probably a defenseman. I don't know if they're going to add up front. Should get pretty interesting. I think one thing to note too is the game last night. They hate to use excuses, and they were using the excuse on the broadcast that they all had the flu and it looked like they had no energy, stuff like that. They lost 4-1 to the Bruins. They made a lot of mistakes. They could have easily won that game in my eyes. But the fact that, Boston was kind of pushing them around like they always do, but the Leafs pushed back and there were fights and scrums. And the Leafs didn't really allow them to take over the game physically like normally, which I was kind of surprised by. Like we saw the opposite of that on like Monday, and I didn't really see that yesterday. There was a lot of scraps and a lot of scrums and stuff like that. So maybe that's changed the mindset of management a little bit to add one more person. I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to watch, but I don't think it's going to be at this point. I'm not sure it's going to be a big fish. Might be another depth guy, but it could be something that helps them in the playoffs, definitely.
Yeah, the pushback was a lot of Leafs fans noticed that. A lot of reporters noticed that. And, I mean, a lot of that obviously has to do with they brought in Lyubushkin and they brought in Joel Edmondson, two huge guys, and Kid Weber as well, who's not going to be playing, but he's still another big guy. And we know that Brad Treliving likes a defenseman from his previous time with the other teams that he's been GM for, that it's kind of been, he's been a very, the Flames, with the Flames, he always likes big guys. He likes huge defensive, and he said since the start he wanted to bring in a defensive-minded center who's huge and kind of change the culture because, let's be honest, they were getting pushed around by the Bruins. They got pushed around in every playoff series for a while now, the past few years. And this change of culture, at the very least, he's trying something different, which is something Dubas did not really do. And now people are hating on Kyle Dubas, which is kind of funny for the Gensel trade yesterday, which was a bit of a fleece for the Canes. But I'll leave that. I do want to ask one question. What are your thoughts on Savard, potentially, of the Montreal Canadiens going to the Toronto Maple Leafs? I know he's been rumored to potentially even be, the Winnipeg Jets are looking at him. The Jets are a powerhouse now. Like, there's a lot of teams. You look at the Vegas Golden Knights, they went out and they're just going all in. Like, there's so many teams that made a lot of moves. Do you think that that is a problem for the Leafs going forward just because of how many teams got better? And yes, the Leafs got better in the ways they kind of needed to, but I don't think they got nearly as good as some of these other teams, at least from an upgrade perspective from last week compared to now.
I just don't think they have the assets to do that this year. I think they kind of have to reload and lick their wounds a little bit this year and upgrade where they can, which I think they have been doing. And I think, we haven't seen on the ice yet, except for Lyubushkin, but Brad Treliving has been doing that. Now on the Savard thing, like you mentioned, Savard as a player would be fantastic for the Leafs. It'd be great. Everything that they need in a player, right? Everything we mentioned, one Stanley Cup, right shot defenseman, big defenseman, all that stuff. He'd be great. Unfortunately, Kent Hughes eats first round picks for breakfast, and I don't think the Leafs want to give up a first round pick for David Savard, and I don't think they can, even if they wanted to, or even if that was just the ask. I think they want to hold on to their first round pick this year, because if you keep throwing stuff like that out of the cupboard, it's going to come back to bite you in a few years, and you do have to think about those things, right? I know they want to win now, but you do have to think about those things. But I think the price is just probably way too high. He hasn't even moved yet, and I'm not sure he's going to move by the deadline, because he is a piece that other teams could use too. So I wonder if the price is just too high on him. I'm not sure the Leafs want to trade within, not even within conference, within division as well. So that's interesting, but I would say it's unlikely. But in terms of the player fit, he would be really good. So I wouldn't even be mad if that trade ended up happening, because he would fit really well, but I just don't think it will.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But it's always a chance. And like you mentioned earlier, there's definitely a shift happening in Toronto, especially regarding the defensive thing. Maybe Matt Dumba will be the guy that we've been linked to 100 times that the Leafs end up making a move for. But we'll have you covered for it. Then we'll wrap up the video. Let us know what your thoughts are on all of this. We're now 3 or 4 hours away from the trade deadline ending. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see what the Leafs do. And as soon as they do make a move, we'll have you covered. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you probably later today.